My favourite non-Christian death Rozz Williams albums that include some Christian death albums. What? Welcome to By Candlelight, beaming goth, dark wave and post-punk straight into your brain. And before you ask, no, your hairspray will not stop it. If my intro confused you, and I'm not saying for 1 second that it did, we need to go back to the original Christian death lineup that spawned the 3 classic albums: Only Theatre of Pain, Catastrophe Ballet and Ashes. After these, in mid-1985, Rozz Williams left Christian death due to band differences. One of those differences was the apparent lack of flexibility for band members to pursue other projects outside of Christian death. It's crucial to mention here that prior to those initial releases, Rozz Williams had already formed his experimental and performance art project, Premature Ejaculation, in 1981. It was clear that he wanted to stretch his wings and that Christian death were not going to allow him to do this. Premature Ejaculation would continue until his sad passing on April the 1st, 1998. Although this project didn't really click with me personally, it demonstrated an artistic freedom of expression that can only be admired. The first of his other projects to click with me was Shadow Project, that he formed in 1987. Their 3 albums were Shadow Project from 1991, Dreams for the Dying from 1992, and then a leap to 1998 for From the Heart. Starting with Shadow Project, its mix of glam, hard rock and punk really highlighted Rozz's attempts to move away from the goth label. And Rozz really hated the goth label. And whilst you can't say that this is goth by any stretch, it still struggles to relinquish death rock in its entirety. The changes in tempo mid-song on so many of these tracks feel like attempts to quickly dodge genre labelling. If it feels like glam, let's rock it into punk, but then let's bring in some chugging metal riffage. I don't get to say riffage very often. It feels good. Strange saying it on a goth channel, but it feels good. Try the explosive Death Plays His Role and Red Handed. Second album, Dreams for the Dying, delivers more of the same, but really pushes that experimental button. You really hear this on the atonal groans that make up Holding You Close, not for the faint-hearted. In fact, is there anything behind me? There is, isn't there? Don't do that! The Circle and the Cross is another that you wouldn't play at a family get-together. Or maybe you would. Elsewhere, you get that same mishmash of punk, glam and metal. All highly entertaining, of course. For me though, the real magic of Shadow Project came with their 3rd and final album, From the Heart. With a mainly stripped back and, I suppose, acoustic sound, this has some golden moments on it. This album was released posthumously on the 21st of April 1998. So not that long after his passing. It's a huge departure from what came before. The Wicker Man-esque Forever Came Today features a commanding and dynamic Rozz, and in my opinion is the highlight here. Hall of Mirrors is a slice of dark folk that is strangely comforting and features some quite elaborate piano backing. It's still not without its more experimental elements. Lying Deep features these spiralling moments of piano, like you're falling into a bottomless chasm. Nice. Holy Hell is backed by this meandering organ with Rozz and his ex-wife, Eva O, battling for supremacy vocal-wise. I would highly recommend this album. Moving on from Shadow Project, Rozz then recorded 2 studio albums as Christian Death, meaning that there were 2 versions of the band in existence at the same time. I'm not sure whether it was a legal thing, but Rozz's Christian Death had to call themselves Christian Death featuring Rozz Williams. The first of these albums was 1993's The Path of Sorrows. Thought I'd just show the vinyl there because I remembered that it was quite a vivid blue. So this album takes the experimentation of Shadow Project, but just removes the harder-edged punk and metal elements. It exists as a delicious waking nightmare of meandering guitars and funeral march drums. Give The Angels and The Widow's Dream a try. There's even a cover of the Velvet Underground's Venus in Furs. It took a few listens to get into this album and to really appreciate where it sits in Rozz's extensive discography. You've certainly got to be in the right mood for it, but when you are, it's a captivating and electrifying listen. Next album, The Rage of Angels, continues in a similar vein. The track Lost Minds may feel chaotic, but it's utterly addictive. It's the same with Bad Year. It only lasts for 1 minute and 40, but in that time manages to wrap guitars around every single inch of it. The metal guitars on Torch Song do feel a little bit out of place here, and possibly more in alignment with Shadow Project's output. This album also ends with a cover, David Bowie's Panic in Detroit. Aside from those two albums, I need to mention two tracks that Rozz recorded around this time as well, Spectre and Halos. If you've not heard these, I really recommend you check them out. Lastly, we have an album that Rozz made with Gitane Demone called Dream Home Heartache, released in 1995. It's almost cabaret in feel, but the darkest form of cabaret that's being performed in a haunted theatre at the dead of night. How good does that sound? You're hit with this on In Every Dream a Heartache, with its dramatic and eerie final third. These Vulnerable Eyes is a little bit more straightforward, although not by much, but it showcases Gitane's powerful voice. If I said that this album features a decent slice of accordion, I think you might get the picture in terms of its style, but dark it still is. If the album builds any sense of normality, the pair ensure that it's brought crashing down with the reprising title track. So those are my favourite non-Christian Death Rozz Williams albums that feature some Christian Death albums. I don't think even I get it. He was involved with so many more side projects, most of them being quite experimental. And even now I sometimes think, am I missing an amazing album or track that I just haven't discovered yet? Let me know if you like another one of his bands or projects that I haven't mentioned here. It just remains for me to say, rest in peace, Rozz Williams. The mark that you have left is a permanent one and is etched on all of us. Until next time, see you later.